Microeconomics 4C, identify the basic characteristics of monopoly, oligopoly, monopolistic competition, and pure competition. I'll start with pure competition. The simplest market structure to study is perfect competition. Only a few industries come close to meeting these conditions. There are several different firms that are available. There's almost no variety of goods within perfect competition. It's very easy to get in and out of the market, and there are no controls by the government over prices. I'm going to give you an example of that. It probably would be selling tomatoes in town. First of all, there's a lot of different places around town, and that you little vegetable stands and things like that you can get tomatoes. So there's many different firms. There's not a very big variety of goods because tomatoes are tomatoes are tomatoes. Now I know there's big sandwich tomatoes and smaller tomatoes for salads, but let's just say we're talking about regular tomatoes here. The barriers to entry. I mean, if you want to set up a tomato stand, you can do that on the side of the road with a table and a chair and some tomatoes. It's not very hard to do that. If you want to get out of the tomato business, you fold up the chair, put the tomatoes in your truck, and leave. So there's few barriers to entry. All right, and there's no control over prices. The only thing that controls prices in a perfect competition situation is the competition itself. If you raise the price of tomatoes more than the other people in the region that are selling tomatoes, you're not going to sell any tomatoes. If you go down and beat everybody's price, they're all going to come down to you, the same price. So you end up having a very, very close price, and it's usually a low price. Perfect competition is a good situation, but there's not very many examples in our country. The next one that I'm going to talk about is a monopoly. Okay, there's monopolies are illegal in the United States. The definition is that a market is dominated by one single seller instead of many buyers. The closest one we've had recently would have been Microsoft, which was busted up by the government. Monopoly started to come in during the Industrial Revolution with the railroads and the Standard Oil Company, and they still toy with it today. But there's antitrust laws that make it so that monopolies are illegal in the United States, and that helps keep prices down and keeps competition alive. However, there are monopolies that are allowed by the United States government, and those mainly are called natural monopolies. Excellent example of that would be Blue Ridge EMC. You have one option in this area for power, and that's Blue Ridge EMC. So the government allows Blue Ridge EMC to dominate the region as far as power goes, but in exchange they must keep their prices at a low level because they're allowed to dominate the region. I mean, if they wanted to, if the government had no control, they could jack prices up to where power bills were $1,000 a month, but for just a regular household. But the government forces them to keep it down. They did just go up in their prices about 20% recently, but they hadn't gone up in prices in a long time, and that price was approved by the government. So natural monopolies are allowed. Typically, those are with like water companies or power companies. That are allowed in certain regions. It's just a more efficient way to do it. I mean, you could imagine having 20 different power companies and getting confused with whose lines went down during storms and things like that. So that would sum up monopolies. Monopolistic competitions and oligopoly. Oligopoly is easy. I'll start with that one. Just think Coke or Pepsi. It's like 2 or 3 or 4 big, huge companies, AT&T Wireless and Verizon. Coke versus Pepsi, maybe even Canon, versus Sharp, or different types like that. And you know what I mean by that. We'll cover a lot more in class. Monopolistic competition is a little bit different. you have several firms, okay, that are involved in this, and there is some variety. The best way I can explain it is let's take footballs. You have NFL footballs, which are really nice, and you have Nerf footballs. NFL footballs, you know, and Nerf football, they're both footballs, all right, but the quality level is different. You know, does people, you know, during bad times, they may start buying Nerf footballs instead of the NFL footballs. When times are good, they might, you know, go out and say, hey, I'm going to buy an NFL football this year, you know, at Toys R Us or whatever. So they, you know, they still compete because they're both footballs, but they're at different quality levels. Another example would be, you know, a Hummer versus a you know, a Kia. All right, you know, obviously they're both vehicles. Both of them are vehicles, but and one is way nicer in quality than the other one. But the you know, Kia gets better gas mileage, and the Hummer is obviously a lot nicer and can go off road. So you know, you have two different things. They're both vehicles, and in certain times they do compete with each other, and it usually you know, deals with the income effect on how that goes.